A few years back, Alan Moore, noted snake god worshipper, black magician, and sometimes comic and prose writer, kicked a wasp's nest of neck-bearded fanboys by suggesting that it's possible that the devolution of popular culture into very simple, often patriotic morality plays via superhero formula film has had an adverse effect on our culture and might contribute to the rise of fascism in the West. He was promptly decried from 10 million parents' basements for his crime, and I did this video in response. However, Alan Moore has recently come out and clarified his position in The Guardian this past week, indicating he feels the rise of fandom as a cultural force has toxified the world. And on the eve of another US election, I'm very sorry to say that I think he's quite right. Let's talk about what I mean, and probably what Alan Moore means. I'm Dan Unthan, and this is the Doomcast. First off, thanks for watching. Do me a favor, hit subscribe and the bell. I make about one of these videos a week. They are all great, so please don't miss even one. Now, Alan Moore is already firmly cemented in the pantheon and or mausoleum of comic creator greatness, much to his utter dismay, but his body of work is inarguable in its importance to the medium. So why would a guy, even one who notoriously shunned his work being adapted and shunned stardom or accolades of any kind, go so far as to explain that fandom is a bad thing? Well, I certainly invite you to read his op-ed in his own words, which is linked in the description of this video. And I fear that many of you who haven't read it or won't watch much more of this video are about to prove him and me very right in the comments here. And that's absolutely fine with me because it boosts the algorithm. But what he actually decried is the animal that the comic fan has become. An older animal, for one thing, with a median age in its late 40s, fed presumably by nostalgia that its energetic predecessor was too young to suffer. And while the vulgar comic story was originally proffered solely to the working classes, soaring retail prices had precluded any audience save the more affluent, had gentrified a previously bustling and lively cultural slum neighborhood. His words, not mine, that's a direct quote, and it's quite specific that in many ways he's talking about me, or rather people an awful lot like me, save a few key things. The crux of his complaint lies at the heart of what fandom has become. In his words, those who carp and cavil rather than contribute or create, and that's quite a few fans. That fans, especially those who are older in their desire for the comfort of nostalgia, a balm against the more trying realities of adulthood, have moved on from and ceased quite liking the thing that they like or even appreciating it, but moving en masse to try and control it, to halt its progress or evolution and demand its return to what they, often incorrectly, regard as being their childhood. Of course, no art form or medium is owned by its consumers or patrons. It's owned by creators and artists, the people that make it happen. And while anyone is entitled to patronize and consume, it's entirely the choice of the artist to create. Moore mentions Comicsgate and Gamersgate as significant toxic movements, but also cites cancellations or rewrites due to fan reactions as some examples of that toxic culture, and he's certainly not wrong. The cottage industry of complaining and frustrated fanboys in all walks, from Star Wars to, especially Star Wars and Spider-Man, to other comics, games, movies, virtually anything. In almost no circumstances do you see people on YouTube or any other platform creating fandom content loudly and joyfully celebrating what they quite like or read, in Moore's words, but decrying and excoriating the work and art that they don't, as well as the people who consume or patronize it or create it. Take, for example, the tremendous debacle of what happened with Zeb Wells' Spider-Man run, that after the Beyond Arc fans turned on him because he didn't get Peter back together with Mary Jane, many of those fans clearly had not read the comic from the comments I read on YouTube videos about this, but instead watch videos summarizing and complaining about the current direction because they don't feel that Peter can be happy or editorial won't let him be with MJ, notwithstanding the fact that editorial hasn't let him be with MJ for almost the last full 20 years. Or for another example, the incredible vitriol against Dragon Age Veilguard for including elements like non-binary characters and queer sexuality and condemnation of racism, all elements that previously were included in every other single game in that franchise. But doing that now is just going to get the fans upset. Now, I totally understand not liking the direction of a book or game. You're absolutely fine not liking something. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. But the adult reaction is to simply accept that it didn't land with you, and perhaps there are other people that it resonates with. And even if there aren't, it doesn't matter. There's other things that you do quite like, and you can pivot to appreciating those things instead. The toxification of fandom has led a lot of us to a state of entitlement that is frankly embarrassing for us, and its effects are that it's also radicalizing people politically as a result. In the way that physics have an equal and opposite reaction, so too does this polarization. And it means that rather than just safely finding refuge in entertainment, a thing more mentions as valuable and enriching, it's led fans to truly expose themselves as fanatics. Both those fans decrying things for wokeness or liberalism or a hidden political agenda, and also the people in reaction defending this same media quite often. Now, make no mistake, this isn't both sides. By toxifying culture, it's made our entire pop landscape a place where nobody is truly free to just enjoy anything. They're taking part in a culture war because the toxic people have made it a war. Moore is saying, and quite rightly, that the enjoyment of nostalgia or the investment in entertainment is fine, even beneficial to a degree. But when a feeling of entitlement or anger has taken hold in us because some franchise or story is wrong for whatever reason, is terrible, not just for enjoying art, but that it makes the entire world a battlefield that extends beyond art and literature into journalism, transportation, clothing, identity, politics, everything. And the second you guard something that you didn't personally create so jealously as to feel that you can decide that it's for you and for nobody else to enjoy, and if somebody else does enjoy that, then they're wrong, that's where a line's crossed from reader to fanatic. And that isn't good for anyone, especially you. In fact, you're the one who's suffering from it the most, probably. In any case, thanks for watching. This has been the Doomcast. We'll see you next week.